Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the H Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Guys, today I have a very exciting story for you. I finally went out of the house. I went to experience something different and I'm here to share it with you. And well, first of all, I would just like to say that this episode is going to contain spoilers in the sense that I went to see Pete Davidson's tour live in Amsterdam. And if you're someone who plans on going to the tour, and I assume he doesn't do a different set in every single city, even though he perhaps I would say tweaks the jokes a little bit to accommodate it to the culture and the city in which he currently performs. But still, I would imagine that the main set is quite constant. So if you're someone who wants to go see Pete Davidson live on his current tour or already have tickets, maybe skip this episode for now because I don't want to spoil the experience for you because I am going to talk about the jokes, I'm going to talk about the setup and everything. And I don't know if I can necessarily, but I'm under no NDA and they took our phones away, which is something wait, I'm getting so ahead of myself. Let's do it step by step. So, Pete Davidson, for those of you who don't know, is an American comedian, stand up comedian. He was on SNL, then he was no longer on SNL. He has a few stand up comedy specials on Netflix, I believe. And now he was just touring. And the thing is, I love stand up. There's no way I haven't mentioned this before in the year and a half that we've known each other. I love stand up. Stand up comedy is one of my favorite go-to things to watch when I'm at home and don't know what to watch. Want something lighthearted but something engaging, something entertaining but something that will leave me feeling better off. So that's why a lot of the times, if I don't want to watch a movie because a movie is too long of a commitment, but I also don't want to start like an entire series or I've just finished a series, I just watch a stand up comedy special. And I love stand up. I love, just in general, I feel like you probably have noticed that I love storytelling. Storytelling is such an important part of human nature, of human culture, global culture. Storytelling is a way for us as people to connect to each other, to grow, to preserve culture, preserve memories, preserve knowledge. Storytelling is everywhere. And whether you perceive the stuff you see online as storytelling or not, does not deprive them of their storytelling nature because everything has a story. And I'm just so fascinated by hearing people's stories. As you probably have noticed, I'm a yapper myself. I love telling stories, I love hearing stories. Stories are something that's so captivating and so crucial to our being. And that's why any chance I get, be it time wise, money wise, I try to take advantage of it and go and see a stand up comedy show because that's the thing about stand up. I know that, well, if you've never been to a stand up comedy show, maybe your perception of what stand up is might differ from what in reality actually sustains. Because stand up, it aims to make you laugh. That's the whole purpose. They try to make you giggle and kick your feet and just have fun. They are very exquisite performers. And the thing is, because of their storytelling, because of the way they have curated it to make it appear as if they're just like talking with friends, you don't really comprehend how complicated it is. But stand up is so complicated, and for me, It's such a complex and nuanced emotional experience because obviously I go there to entertain myself and I go there to have fun, have a more upbeat evening, more lighthearted experience. But the thing is, stand up is so much more than that. Stand up is about connections. Stand up is about, at least the stand up I have seen has been always, they have, obviously, the majority of the set is about entertaining you and making you laugh. But I've never been to a stand up comedy show which has not ended with something more abstract, but also something just moral. And obviously, you can go and argue what morality is and is it subjective, is it person specific, but just the overall idea is more relatable to anyone because it speaks about general ideas of morality. And for example, the P. Davidson said, again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but guys, I'm struggling a little bit to structure this episode because I have so much to say and I don't know where to start. So I just start from anywhere and just keep grabbing stuff. So if it sounds a bit messy and unorganized, that is because I have not mastered the art of storytelling and I just want to tell a story. So, for example, P. Davidson's story of higher value, if you so want to call it, was the last one in which, again, spoiler alert, if you're going to see him and you want to be completely blind going there and blind to the story and blind to the jokes. Because the thing is, I have seen Pete Davidson's stand-up comedy specials, and his weekend updates on SNL were my favorite. SNL, for those of you who don't know, is Saturday Night Live, which in the US is this live show which centers around comedy, and it's every Saturday, as the name suggests. And he was on there. He was part of the cast for quite a while, I would say, and he was very, very young. I mean, not that now he's like what, 30, but he was in his very early 20s when he was part of the cast of SNL, and he was just, in my opinion, phenomenal. Because the thing is, comedy and humor are something that are so subjective, and what I find funny may not be universally funny, although, I mean, I struggle to comprehend the fact that someone will not find this funny. But the thing is, so Pete's humor, I would say, is quite specific. I know we started talking about the moral story. I'll get to it. But let's first provide some context. His comedy, and when I explain how I perceive his comedy, trust me, I'm not trying to make backhanded compliments. This, I mean it with the warmest feelings I have in my heart. His comedy is that of, let's say, a teenager boy who just has money. But also he speaks about such everyday stuff in such him-specific way that you're like, bro, I never thought about this that way, but like, you're so right. And he just makes the story relatable for us peasants. But yeah, I just really, really find his specific humor funny. And so, yeah, wait, let's go back to the moral of the story, because some mistakes have made, that's all right. Some mistakes are made, that's all right, that's okay. You can think that you're in love, but you're really just engaged. So yeah, the moral of the final, message he left us with was about standing up for yourself and respecting yourself and demanding respect, because it was about his, I don't remember if it was middle or high school teacher who had the same name as Mr. Mackey from South Park. And because obviously, children are annoying and disrespectful because they're children, and just awful. They kept on saying the Mr. Mackey catchphrase, which is, well, I don't know if it's considered a catchphrase, but like the okay, every single time the person spoke. And that obviously was very, very annoying for the teacher. And it escalated very quickly to the point that he threw a coffee mug at the star basketball player of the school. He missed him because the guy ducked. But yeah, people were just so scared. Like the students were so scared that they didn't dare to make fun of Mr. Mackey anymore. And this, well, it was facilitated through fear, but this respect sustained itself throughout the years because they were, as a generation, giving a gift to the next generation, being like, don't make fun of Mr. Mackey because he might, throw a boiling hot cup of coffee at your head. And like this, the teacher, who this was his first year of teaching, was like, I learned so much from you and I thank you for the experience and blah, 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 blah. And I think the moral of the story was to stand up for yourself, obviously not by hurting people, but also on the other end of the spectrum, it's about how you treat people and the fact that if you make fun of people constantly and just belittle them every single day and make fun of their nature, something they cannot control, don't be surprised if they snap and don't be surprised if they fight back. So it was all about treating people with respect and just, realizing that we're all humans, no matter if it's a student-teacher relationship, no matter the hierarchy, no matter if someone is so much higher than you, hierarchically speaking, or so much lower than you, there's still a person with feelings, which can get hurt, and they deserve to be treated with respect. It's a very basic concept, I know, but unfortunately quite an overlooked one, and one that has not been practiced as much as it should have been. So this is what I mean. Throughout the entire set, I was giggling and kicking my feet because it was funny, but then at the end, it left me with food for thought. And this is why I love stand-up, because it's an all-around well curated experience, and I love it. I just love the cohesiveness, the completeness, and just the content it leaves me with. So anyways, but let's talk about what the actual experience was. So if you know me, you know that sometimes I worry about my comprehension of the English language, which is quite ironic considering that I have been exclusively living in English for the past 4 years. I create art in English. All my relationships here are English based. So, I shouldn't be worrying about this. Also, movies and TV series I've been watching in English way before I moved abroad. But I always, when it comes to seeing stand-up, and I would say I've been to quite a few stand-up comedy shows, this is my biggest fear before going to a stand-up. Will I be able to comprehend the English? Because in my day-to-day life, when I watch stand-up on my laptop or I watch a movie, I watch TV series, I am so over-reliant on subtitles. And I know in conversations, I cannot have subtitles and I don't have trouble understanding people when I communicate with them. But because when I'm watching something on a screen, I never not have subtitles on unless I'm in the cinema. And I've talked about this is because I'm in a country where the official spoken language is not English. So if I watch a movie that's produced in the English language, the subtitles are obviously going to be in Dutch. So in the cinema, I cannot rely on subtitles. But when I go to stand-up shows, this is my biggest fear. And I just need to put myself in a mindset where I just focus on the language. I know this is so stupid because generally speaking, I never worry about having to speak in English because I'm so used to it. It comes natural to me. And whether I have a conversation in Bulgarian or in English, that doesn't really matter to me because English has become so ingrained in who I am and how I speak and express myself that I don't give it a second thought. I have become so, like, I have assimilated the language to a point where when I speak, I don't have to first think about ideally, you always think about what you have to say before you say it. But I mean, I don't have to translate it in my head before I say it. Or if someone speaks to me, I don't have to translate it in my brain to understand it. I don't have to translate it to Bulgarian to understand it. I just understand it as is in English. So I think that just comes with obviously being so submerged in the language. And I don't know why this still persists as a concern. It shouldn't, but it does. So I was quite anxious. And yeah, so I had classes before the stand-up. I had barely slept like 6 hours. Then I had 6 hours of lectures. And after that, immediately, I just ran home, studied for an hour because I'm me, and then just left for Amsterdam and went to the venue. And obviously, as I was queuing, behind me were Bulgarians because obviously, I swear, we are everywhere. And how is it that in a venue with 6,000 people, there's Bulgarians after me, like behind me? That's just crazy coincidence. And obviously, I was eavesdropping on their conversation, like they were talking about anything spicy or whatever. But I was just like, wait, let me hear your story. And I was like, I am not going to give away the fact that I'm Bulgarian. But eventually I did. And we talked a little bit and that was it. And then when I sat in my seat, because that was in the queue, I was sat to these two girls from America. And I felt so awkward because it was just us. And I was like, okay, wait, let me start a conversation. I don't know, because I felt like that would ease my anxiety. And also I just legit had a question of whether or not the show would have an opener because it was not announced in the schedule, but most stand-up shows I've been to have had openers, and I was just wondering if they knew. So we started talking, and guys, sometimes I'm surprised by the stuff that comes out of my mouth because I genuinely don't think about it. So we start talking, and they tell me about their experience in the US and how they moved to the Netherlands and what they studied and how they live in the Netherlands now. And I tell them about my experience moving from Bulgaria to the Netherlands and being a student here and what it means and what it blah, 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 blah. And we start talking about stand-up, adulthood, and then because we were talking about how I wanted to move to a different city for my master's, but I simply could not afford it financially because a very bad housing crisis situation is going on in the Netherlands, and there's way more people than the country can house, apparently. And the demand is so high that prices are even higher. And like a single room in one of the bigger cities could go up to 1,000 euros per month. And I was talking about this, and we just started talking, Jaden Smith, the social and political economic state of the world right now. And I started talking about banana prices. Imagine going to a stand-up comedy show and being the person who starts a conversation with strangers and you start talking about, well, they mentioned something about grocery prices going up, and I just started talking specifically about bananas because I love bananas. Because hello, I am a child of a post-communist country where bananas were a luxury that you could attain only once a year on New Year's, and it was rationed depending on the member number of your family. So now, when I have an abundance of bananas available to me any day I want, obviously I am going to overconsume bananas. And they are one of my favorite fruits. So, you know, I notice when banana prices change because when they are on discount, I buy like 2 kilos and they're gone in like a day and a half. And I just started talking about, hey, so just so you guys know, bananas this week are discounted in Lidl. And so I immediately felt so embarrassed. And I even called myself out. I was like, what is going on in my life? I go to a stand-up comedy, I meet random people, and I just start talking about banana prices to them. But you know what's worse? Imagine being the person going to a stand-up comedy show and a random person starts talking to you about banana prices. And they found it like a bit funny, and they were like, you know what, I'll take a mental note of this. And tomorrow I will go to Lidl and I will buy discounted bananas. How we got there, honestly, a mystery. But I'm like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with me? I was such a bright, hopeful kid. Very clever, some would say. And now I'm just talking out there. Before Pete Davidson comes on stage, I'm out there talking to strangers about groceries. Just, I should have stayed with the mystery of whether or not there was an opener. Because was having that knowledge really so crucial that I had to, take it a step further and start talking about banana discounts at Lidl? I don't know. I feel like this is something I myself am overthinking quite a lot, and obviously now I'm putting it out there for you to find it as awkward as I did, because sometimes silence is gold, and this is the type of stuff that is going to keep me up at night because I am one of those people now. But yeah, so anyway, so what I really liked about the way the stand-up was set up was, and this has happened to different stand-up comedy shows I've been to. I think it only did not happen when I went to see Jack Whitehall. So normally, if let's say this is a stand-up set that is going to be filmed for a stand-up comedy special for a streaming platform, even if it's not filmed at your location, they're going to lock your phones away because they don't want you filming the set and distributing it online and just basically ruining the entire production. So they lock away our phones and any electronic devices we have, like smartwatches, headphones, anything of the sort that can be used to record audio or video or anything. And this obviously done for privacy reasons, but I think, obviously, I'm someone who would like to have a picture of the show simply to remember it by. So this is something I'm like, oh damn, like now I don't have a picture of what the stage looked like. And I'm someone who, I don't really look back on my concert videos or stuff, but it's still nice to know that if I am telling a story, I can support it by images and I can show it to friends and family. So yeah, I don't have any pictures or videos of the stand-up, which, whatever, but I think locking your phone away, even if it's not for privacy reasons, is the best thing they can do, because it just forces you to be in the moment, not get distracted, and you can just enjoy what's in front of you. And they very explicitly said, before we lock your phones, please make, and they're put in those little fabric pouches that you cannot open yourself. They're magnetically closed and you need a special device to open them. So, they made sure to tell us, make sure to turn off your phone's sound, and or if put it on an airplane mode or whatever, because we don't want it to ring during the show, because you won't be able to access it to pick up or hang up. Make sure to just turn off the volume. And I, as a law-abiding citizen, obviously did do that. But the person who was sitting a row underneath me did not do that. And they received phone calls multiple times, and obviously they couldn't do anything. And I'm just like, my guy, how difficult is it to just put your phone on silence? Because put your phone on silence, the show is about to begin. Like, it's really not that difficult to adhere to the rules of the venue, especially if you not adhering to the rules is going to disturb the experience of many people around you. Like, that's just not fun, because obviously you cannot be like, hey Pete, what did you say? Because I couldn't hear because this guy's phone is ringing like nonstop. So that was really, really not nice. And I hope they felt embarrassed to the point that they will not let this slide next time and just be like, wow, I just choked on air. That's what I get for talking shit about people. Never mind. So it's just, I hope they felt embarrassed to the point that they're like, you know what? Last time I felt embarrassed because people were displeased about my phone ringing, and I couldn't pick it up because they explicitly told me you will not be able to access your phone until the end of the show. So maybe this time I will actually turn off my volume and put my phone on silence or put it on airplane mode. It's really not that difficult. I know that phones are very addictive, and I know that they have become an extension to our bodies and our minds, but it's really concerning if you are not willing to let go of your phone for an hour and a half, especially considering that you paid money to go and leave your phone and just enjoy someone's live performance. So yeah, that was a bit shitty, but I am the person who talked about banana prices, so I don't know if I have the right to judge others for their behavior at a stand-up or any public situation. Moreover, what they do, wow, this moreover sounded like an essay, damn. What they do is like, so for those of you who may not be in a country that is part of the European Union or have not been to a country, like visited, and you've never bought like a plastic water bottle or like a soft drink and water bottle in plastic bottle, what was introduced as practice a few years back is that now the caps of the bottles are attached to the bottle itself. It's not that you twist it and you can remove the cap. They are sealed together in a way that you cannot remove them, and you should not remove them because this is done for recycling practices. And the thing is, though, that when you go to any event, at least in Europe/EU, they do not let you enter the venue with your bottle. Well, you can enter with your bottle, but only if you remove the cap, which, like I just mentioned, they are. I mean, you technically can rip it apart, but also it's not really nice to just have an open water bottle full of water that you need to constantly look over and just be wary of not spilling it, because that's just really not a fun experience to have. Oh my god, my leg fell asleep. Give me a second. It's like one of those situations where it's like it's being poked by thousands, hundreds of thousands of little needles, and I just Ow. Anyways, I will just be podcasting from now on in this weird position that I'm currently in, so that hopefully it just stops. Uh, I feel like it's because I always sit in weird positions because I just, scoliosis. And then it falls asleep, and then just the blood rushes down the leg, and I think this is what causes it to have that sensation of being needled by hundreds of thousands of needles every like a second. um and that's why I'm still kind of thankful that Dirty Martini is not a video podcast, because if you looked at the way I look now, you would never be able to see me the same way again. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, plastic bottles. So they don't let you enter the venue with the bottle with the cap on, because this can be quite dangerous. And the reason it can be quite dangerous is this can literally be a weapon. Because if you fill a water bottle and you close it, you can throw it. And I know that for many of you, myself included, this would never even cross our minds, because we would be just too busy to talk about banana prices with the people we're sat next to. But there have been, like, the reason rules are introduced, and the thing is, rules are not something that is created as a preventative measure before it happens. Rules are created as a reactive measure after something has happened. So that means that someone has thrown bottles and hurt people or the artists themselves. And so this is to prevent, weaponry in venues. And that's why, for example, and about rules being a preventative measure, you would see that when you buy a plant, let's say from Little, because obviously, guys, I'm not being paid by Little. I really wish I was. But it's just, where I do my shopping, because it's the more budget friendly option here in the Netherlands in the face of Albert Heijn or something like this. Not that Albert Heijn is bad. Albert Heijn is great. Albert Heijn has an amazing selection of produce, but it's more expensive. And I am balling on a budget and have been for the past 4 years. And I don't know for how long I will. But this is also something I want to talk about in this episode when it comes to the stand-up and how I reacted when I had to buy the tickets. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, what was I saying about Little Brother? Brother is my new parasite word, and I really need to stop saying it because I'm even annoying myself. Because instead of dude or bro, I just say brother. So that's on that. Okay, I had to go back and just replay and see what is it that I wanted to say, because my mind, like, I'm just so absent-minded these days. I'm so overworked. I'm just like mentally not here. So yeah, if let's say you go and buy a plant from Little and they come in those plastic wraps, and you can see on the plastic wrap that there is a warning sign that this is not to be eaten. That means that someone has eaten the plants. So for that rule to exist, it was a reactive measure based on what people have done. The whole reason I started talking about all of this is so I had to, throw away my water bottle, because I just don't want to have to be cautious of a water bottle without a cap, because the venue is not a cinema. You don't have a cup holder in your seat. It's just, like football stadium seats, kinda, but like in a much smaller size, and they were made out of fabric. Doesn't matter, they were in plastic. So I threw away my water bottle, and I knew that this was something that was going to happen. So I tried to drink as much water as possible before that. But the thing is, I am always very torn. So the thing is, and I've mentioned this before, I live very far away from any event that I want to go to. I had to travel 2.5 hours per direction for me to go to that venue. Well, with the public transport I took in my city, that's another 30 minutes on top. So I traveled for 3 hours to get from my place to the stand up. And that's why when I was talking to those American girls and they're like, oh yeah, we live in Amsterdam and like I just came by bike. And I'm like, brother, imagine. Because like, yeah, just not funsies. And like, that's why, guys, when you move places and you are an avid concert goer or an avid like event goer, think about where those events are held and how that might affect your, because like commuting is so fun and games until it's not fun and games, and like it's just so exhausting, it's so time consuming, and it's so expensive. um but yeah, so I was very torn. Here's the thing, when I go to events, it's either overhydration and I have to piss my pants, but because the queues for the toilet are just inhumane, I cannot go to pee without missing something. And I am never missing anything from the set. I hate it. And or I would be dehydrated to the point that even my eyes dry up because my body is trying to soak up any form of liquid it can. And so I was very torn between this because I was like, I don't want to use the train's toilet because I mean they're much much nicer. They're actual toilets when you compare them to the train toilets in Bulgaria, which are just, a hole in the train. But still, I would rather not have to use those. And so for those 3 hours, I barely drank anything. And 30 minutes before I went to the venue, I just drank my entire water bottle. And then when I had to throw away my water bottle, I was like, oh shit, I'm so fucked because this event is an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then it ends when the supermarkets are closed, and I need to catch a train that departs 5 minutes after I leave the venue. So I need to get to the train station, find my platform, and just get on the train. So I couldn't, like go to like a train booth in the like a booth in the train station and figure out if they have a vending machine or not, because I was on a very tight schedule. And when I get on that train, I don't get off it for 3 hours, 2.5, and then public transport from my place, from the train station to my place, another 30 minutes. So I was like, I'm so fucked right now because I'm going to be so dehydrated to the point that my lips just stick together, which probably would have been beneficial if it happened before I started talking about banana prices. But oh well, you live and you learn. So I'm very, mindful and try to time my dehydration or hydration. And that's something I just really, really don't enjoy, especially when going to concerts, because now at the stand-up, I was sad the entire time. I wasn't up dancing and, singing and whatever. I was not physically getting exhausted. Whereas at concerts where I'm there to, dance, have fun, and standing the entire time, if I'm general admission, lack of water is really, really not fun and can be quite dangerous. And now I was more okay with, being thirsty for a few hours than at a concert, because at concerts it is very, very, no pun intended, draining. And I just remember when I went to see The Weeknd and they made me throw away my bottle, and I had like a sun heat stroke, whatever. So I was really not, I was very faint. My The Weeknd experience was really not great. It was like one of the worst, if not the worst, concert experiences I've had. Not because of the concert itself, but because of everything that led to the concert. I don't know if I've told the story. If I have not, let me know and I'll tell you the story. But yeah, and I just remember they took away my water bottle, and because of there have been incidents where members of the audience have passed away because of dehydration, especially in the heat, because of taking away their water bottles. So this is when venues started introducing giving water for free to audience members, but they only give you like 10 milliliters at a time. And I'm like, brother, what is 10 milliliters going to do to me right now? It's only going to make me more thirsty. So yeah, but that was at a very different experience. It wasn't, the current P. Davidson experience that I had. Anyway, so yeah, and then I was a bit worried about this, but nothing I have not experienced. I unfortunately am by nature a very dehydrated gal because I forget to drink water a lot. And I know that every single episode I finish with stay hydrated. I unfortunately don't practice what I preach, and I have been awake for 2 hours almost now, and I don't think I drank a sip of water. And that's just really, really not healthy. So yeah. And then the stand-up actually started, and indeed there was not one but actually two openers. I'm not familiar with their art. One of them was, so both of them were from P. Davidson and Friends, which is a special on Netflix, I believe. I started watching that one. I don't think I ever finished it. And one of the comedians worked on SNL, and the other was on Law and Order, like a filler character or something like this. Not like a main character. I've never seen Law and Order. I know, sue me. Well, oh wait, oh, that's very thematic. Sue me. So yeah, their sets were quite short. I would say 5 to 7 minutes, and then the star of the show came out on stage. But the openers, I think they were quite funny. They weren't necessarily very aligning with my sense of humor, but they were funny. What I will say, and I know this is so incredibly mean because who am I to talk about it? So maybe I shouldn't say it. I already brought it up. I have to say it. Like, I could fully edit this out, but I don't think I will. So one of the guys, and he was very reflective of this, like he even pointed it out. What was hilarious for me was when he finished his set and he was like, Amsterdam, I had so much more fun doing this than you did. Because his set didn't really, connect with the audience. Like his yeah, just he was like, damn, you're a tough crowd, because people were just not like laughing out loud constantly, which that must be such a big ego death for comedians, because like obviously all you want to do is make that person laugh, and if they don't give you that, you probably start feeling like a failure. But my guy, you were not a failure. It was just, so he naturally has a more high-pitched voice and is a more loud volume speaking individual, and the microphone itself was turned up quite a bit, so it sounded like he was screaming, and I mean screaming to the point that my ears started ringing. And I think this is why he received the reception he did. Not that he was not funny. I think he was funny. It was just the audio was really iffy and difficult to handle. And like midway through his set, they tried to adjust it, but it was a bit too late, kinda. And for Pete, I feel like they either adjusted it or he just wasn't as close to the microphone or whatever. And I because it was so, when that opener was performing, it was so loud. I legit, the side of my head started hurting quite a bit, and then I needed like solid 10 to 15 minutes for it to pass. But yeah, then Pete Davidson came on stage, and my God, that dude stole. Like, I've always thought he was tall, and I was literally so in the back. I had like 3, 4 rows behind me, and then the wall. Um, I went there by myself, by the way. I should have mentioned this. I went there by myself. I invited a few friends, but they either didn't want to go or didn't care about uh P. Davidson to the point that they were like, yeah, I'm willing to spend money to go see P. Davidson, which I respect. But because, I've been following, because, like, he's had his moments. But I've been following his career for quite a while, and I obviously just wanted to go, and I was like, I'm going to go by myself if you don't want to come with me. So that's okay. I went there by myself. I love going to places by myself. I feel like we've established this. I just love going to concerts, venues, cinema by myself. I love it because you only have your feelings and experience to take into account. You don't have to worry about whether the other person is having fun. So I love it. I love it. If I invite you to a place, obviously, if I'm inviting you, I would love for you to join. But if you say no, sure, I may be sad for a little, but I'm not going to be devastated, and I'm not going to stop me from going there. Because if you dance, I'll dance, and if you don't, I'll dance anyway. So yeah, Pete came out, and I think he is such, like, obviously I mentioned his humor is very like teenager boy like, but it's in my opinion quite funny. I think Pete Davidson is a great storyteller. I personally find him very, very funny, and I find him very charismatic. Like, he just, I don't know, I find him funny. And just the stories he was selling were honestly so unhinged at times, and he was doing it in a vulgar way. Well, the three of them, the two openers and Pete himself, they were vulgar, but not in a way that's distasteful or disgusting. Because honestly, can we agree to something? I don't think we should censor stand up in general. Stand up should be allowed to be authentic, real, and I don't think we should, like, how do you say it, crucify stand up comedians for dropping an F bomb, because we're all grown ups. And yes, words carry merit, but just don't bring your children to those venues. Like, whether you're bringing your child to a stand up comedy show, you cannot expect it to be extremely, posh and polished. Like, it's stand up. It's most likely going to be vulgar. There's going to be an F bomb, most likely. So, yeah. And there are like a few stories. So he basically had 2 or 3 main stories, which just flowed into smaller by the way stories. And what I find interesting is when stand-up comedians, because I've only been to stand-up in Amsterdam and then once in London when I went to see Trevor Noah. What I find interesting is when stand-up comedians just adjust their jokes to the city and the culture in which they're currently in to perform. And Pete, was shitting so much on Berlin. He was like, I had such a terrible time there. It was crazy. They were so not a fun crowd. I was like, what can I do here for fun? And they were like, nothing. Fuck this shit. I'm never going back. Fuck Berlin. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And then he was like, but I love it here in Amsterdam, although I'm struggling quite a bit because I'm now sober. And shout out to him for being sober. Like, it takes a lot of bravery, especially if you've been using/abusing for quite a while. It takes so much strength, and I respect him so much for this. So shout out. But yeah, and I just wonder because in Amsterdam he was shooting in Berlin. But let's say, and I don't know what his tour schedule was. So let's imagine tomorrow he goes to Paris. In Paris, will he shoot on Amsterdam? Like, does he do this everywhere? And like, will he shit on Amsterdam and the crowd? Like, I don't know. Like, will he portray the crowd as these stoned sex freaks? I wonder, because like obviously they're over reliant on stereotypes, especially if it's their first time there. It's, yeah, it's to be expected. And then there were one of the most flabbergasting stories was when he was talking about his grandpa, but not his favorite grandpa, who has cancer for the fifth time, and he's like, just go already. I've let you go already multiple times. We've been through the grieving process multiple times. Just go. Why are you sticking around still? And he's like, but hopefully this time. And I found it hilarious because like he has dark humor, and I find dark humor hilarious because I am Balkan. Balkan people are known for dark humor. And I just like when he was telling about, oh, and like if it's my favorite uncle who dies, I would obviously be devastated. But if it's not my favorite uncle who dies, like I would still go to the movies that day. So I found this just hilarious. And then he was telling a story about CFG, which means cake fart girl. And basically, 80-year-old P. Davidson was watching CFG, which, as you can probably imagine by her stage name, was a girl who would just blow out candles on cakes by farting on them. And he was just watching this on a streaming platform that existed before YouTube. So like the OG streaming platform. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the platform. But he was watching this, and then his grandpa, who's, not homophobic, but if there's a queer person, he would point that out, and not racist, but if there is a more tan person, he would point it out. He just came down, and 80-year-old Pete was obviously very distraught, and like just not distraught but like anxious, so he turned off the screen. And I didn't know this, but Pete Davidson apparently is autistic, or was. Is autism curable? Actually, I don't think we should talk about autism nowadays because of this like crazy shit that's going on right now in the US with like autism causing Tylenol or something like that. It's like, brother, what are you talking about? Like, I even watched a video of I don't remember his name. I couldn't care less to remember his name, saying that circumcised men circumcision leads to autism because circumcised boys are given Tylenol, and Tylenol causes autism, so circumcision equals autism. Like, brother, what are you talking about, my guy? Like, please just let the research be done by researchers, people who are actually competent and adequate, and just listen to scientists. Please listen to scientists, because this is just ridiculous and just so incredibly embarrassing for you. Anyways, can you guys tell that I'm vaccinated? Anyways, so yeah, and his grandpa was like, oh, so what are you watching? And he was just staring at the dark screen because he had turned it off because he didn't want his grandpa to see what he was watching. And he was like, and I'm being the most autistic I've ever been, and I'm just staring at a blank turned off screen and being like, oh, I'm just watching. And like, but I cannot do justice to the storytelling, guys. Just the way it was said was just so incredibly hilarious. I That's why I love stand-up, because every comedian has not only a great story, well, not every, but like quite a lot of comedians are great storytellers, and just the way they tell the story is what makes it worth it. And then his grandpa was like, "Oh, don't hide such stuff from grandpa," because his grandpa forced him to turn on the screen and show him what he was actually looking at, and be like, "Oh, don't worry, you don't know what your grandpa is into." But then there was, like, a few years later, there was a virus, which spread, which was showing old men having sex, and it was one of the first computer viruses, and it was not some, like, it had a X button that you could, like, ideally click, and it would close the video. But no, if you click the X button, it just opened up another pop-up with the same video playing over and over again, and you could not pause it, you could not stop it. It just consumed your entire screen eventually. And the same story repeated, and his grandpa saw this, and like I mentioned, his grandpa is not homophobic, but, like, if there's a gay person, he will point it out, even though Pete himself said it was like, "Oh, and he's part of this club and they wear matching sweaters, so I wonder." And yeah, his grandpa just didn't talk to him ever since. And now he's dying, and his mom, because that's his mom's dad, is just begging him to, find more compassion in himself, even though he goes and visits. I'm just really not doing the story justice. I really, really hope this tour was filmed for a comedy special, and it's out whenever. And if it is out, I will let you know, and I will tell you which jokes I was referring to, if they're part of the comedy special, because now I just really, like, that's why I'm not a stand-up comedian. And yeah, also, last thing before I let you go, when the set ended, I really wanted to get up and give him a standing ovation, but it felt so awkward because no one around me was getting up, and my social anxiety would not let me, and I'm like, bro, like, why? And I will never forget when I didn't get up. So when I went to see Post Malone, which was my first ever concert going to alone, his opener, to this day, I don't know how to pronounce the name of that band. I know that it's Ear Drummers spelled backwards, like the band that sings Black Beatles in the City, that band. And they were the openers, and they make like bop music, and like they were like just playing their biggest bangers, which are some of the biggest bangers to ever big banger. And I didn't get up to dance, even though I just needed to, because no one around me would get up. And I was like, bro, to the point that in the intermission between the opener and the main act, I went to a steward in the venue and asked, "Hey, in this section, are we allowed to get up? Because no one is getting up, and I don't know, like, it's my first big concert." They're like, "Yeah, you're allowed to do whatever, just be respectful." And I like had to turn to people and be like, "Okay, guys, when Post Malone comes on stage, we're getting up and we're dancing and we're singing and we're enjoying ourselves. Let's go, let's go, let's go." Some people didn't get up, and I will never forgive myself for not getting up and dancing to like Black Beatles in the City. Well, obviously during that song you're supposed to, stay frozen, but stay frozen standing up. And the moral of the story is, of today's stand-up, of today's Dirty Martini stand-up, you gotta make your own kind of music. Because this is my biggest concert crime to this day, and I regret it so much. And I regret not getting up and giving Pete Davidson a standing ovation, because who cares? This is how I felt. I had a fun time, and in my perception, he deserved to have a standing ovation. Who cares what people think? Who cares? Like, those people I'm never going to see again. They don't know who I am. I don't know who they are. And I should not see this as something intimidating, but as something freeing. I should see it as an opportunity to just be myself and be whoever I want to be. And I should really stop this, because like, who cares? You gotta make your own kind of music even if nobody else sings along. That's the whole point of Dirty Martini, guys. Like, even if nobody listens, I'm here doing it by myself because it brings me joy. And I regret not giving him a standing ovation. I regret not dancing to like ear drummers spelled backwards. And those are things that stay with me, and those are things that haunt me. And I don't want to live a life full of regrets. So that's why I will try my best to work on this and eradicate this social anxiety that's preventing me from living the experience I think I deserve and the experience I want to have. Because it's just really, really not worth it. Because those people, let's say, even if they see me and they're like, oh my god, she got up and like danced during the opener. God forbid a girl wants to have fun at a concert, or like she got up and like gave him a standing ovation. God forbid a girl had fun and wants to show gratitude for the fun she was provided with. Like, who gives a shit? We're so in our heads, and we're so, because now that social anxiety is me projecting my perceptions of what I think I'm perceivable as to those people, because I don't know what those people will perceive me as, because I'm not those people. So just get up, dance, even if nobody's dancing. Like, if you dance, I'll dance, and if you don't, I'll dance anyway. What was it like? Well, I have to practice what I preach. And if no one is laughing, laugh louder, laugh longer, just enjoy life. Because if I'm out here living with the regret, that is more haunting than the, oh my god, I stood up and I had fun. Because instead of remembering, oh, I was up on my feet, dancing the entire evening, having the time of my life, I'm out here now. What I saw Post Malone in 2022, 3 years later, I'm still haunted by the fact that I didn't get up and dance. So I don't know, just weigh the pros and cons and realize that the pros outweigh the cons, and it's really not worth giving social anxiety. Like, obviously, there's people who struggle way more than I do, but if you can control it, you should control it, because it's all projection, it's all in our heads, and we're all going to die. So none of this really matters. So we're all going to die, so we might as well live, whatever living entails. I have also like another aspect of the concert going to cover, which is about like me debating whether or not I wanted to go, but I will leave this for next week. Until then, I really want to thank you so much for joining me today and listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye!